Okay. Slider.
Liz, you're from Pennsylvania, right?
Yes.
Okay, then you're allowed to be a Steeler fan.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Pat.
Here.
Good evening.
Hello.
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 Hi, John.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Good. Good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Seven o'clock.
Yep. All righty.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, thanks.
I'd like to call to order the Environment Public Works Planning, Zoning and Development Committee. Three issues we're going to be discussing this evening. First one is the shade tree recommendations. The reason why nothing was removed at the last committee meeting was that Council President Cobain was not available, and I didn't want to remove anything without his input if he had any. So at the present time, there's been communications from our Public Service Development Director reference to the recommendation from the Shade Tree Commission about no tree planting under utility wires. Yet that would hamper the possibility of planting and for the residents for certain trees that which could be planted under the wires. So there will be possibly no legislation unless Director Riley has something to add. I don't anticipate any legislation being passed on the recommendation of the Shade Tree Commission to prohibit tree planting. So unless there's any additional information or an update, if anybody has any comment or the administration have any comment, I'll accept it this time. If not, then I'll make a motion that this issue be removed from committee. Brian?
Mr. Chairman, just real, I think, as we've discussed before, Jason Knowles, who's a certified arborist, is working on developing a tree management program for the city, and it's a pretty intensive effort on his part, but I believe it's going to be completed by the end of the month. And when we have that, we'll share that with you. But I think our thought is that as you mentioned, prohibiting the planting of trees under wires would really inhibit the ability to do that throughout the city. But we're going to have Jason's report here soon, and I think it'll really give us some great direction on maintaining our current canopy and adding to it going forward.
Thank you, Mayor. Director, do you have any comment?
Thank you. We looked at a draft report from Jason Knowles. There were some typos that he's cleaning up for us. So we should have that report ready by the end of this month. But in that first draft, it's noted that there's over 1,000 locations for trees under wires, and Jason's given us a very comprehensive list of appropriate trees for those locations. So he He did a real fine job creating a tool for us to use to go forward with our management program. So we're looking forward to putting that into practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any comments from members of council?
Yeah, Councilman Minnick, I'd just like to mirror what the mayor said. I mean, I think that's a great idea, prohibiting planting of any trees underneath wires. I mean, there's got to be some trees that would be appropriate, and I mean, they add to the aesthetics of these areas. I mean, we have telephone poles and wires, and I just don't think it's a great idea to prohibit them. So.
Thank you, Mike. I'll make a motion that this issue be removed from committee. Brian?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Maureen?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Thank you. The issue is removed. Second thing is airport noise. Mike, you were the last individual to report receiving complaints from a resident. There's been no update to this issue, and with the new system that's in place at Hopkins Airport, and unless the mayor can add something to it, but we are receiving very few complaints now about the low-flying aircraft and the noise. So if there's anything additional, Mayor, do you have anything additional?
I have not received anything recently directly. I haven't looked at the FAA's direct. You know, they have a portal. I haven't checked that recently, but nobody has reached out to me directly. I have tried to reach out to the FAA, but with what the pandemic it's difficult. You know, I was hoping to do an on-site visit there, but because of the pandemic, that's really not been an option. Just to get a better sense of how things work there. And so I don't have anything new to report at this time.
Thank you. Any members of council have anything additional to this issue? If not, I will entertain a motion that this issue be removed from committee. Brian?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Maureen?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Mike?
You hear me, Bill?
Yes. You agreement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The last issue is lead paint cases in our fine city. The mayor did some research and contacted the Board of Health, and all the members of council have been copied in on the response. In the last 10 years, only 3 cases with children have lead poisoning in the city of Fairview Park. Since 2008, there have only been 5 properties participated in our HUD-funded Lead Safe Cuyahoga grant. So unless there's additional information from the administration, Mayor, do you have anything additional?
No, I don't have anything additional from when I sent that email to council, I believe in November. When I anticipate if there was an issue, our sanitarian would advise us of that going forward. And if it does arise, we'll share it with council.
Thank you, Mayor. Any comments from members of council? If not, I'll move that this issue also be removed from committee. Brian?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Maureen?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll make the motion at the next council meeting. Environment, Public Works, Planning and Zoning Development Committee terminates at 7:10 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being cognizant of time in case maybe I run a little bit later knowing the game is coming, right? Local government and community services will begin at 7:08 p.m. And we have two issues tonight. The first issue being the Gemini Center fees, and the second issue being Fairview Park Codified Ordinances 707 and 708. So I wanted to tackle the issue of Gemini Center fees first. I'm bringing this issue up into committee because we just recently passed an ordinance which held steady the fees for 2021. And I think that it's important that we as a council understand the thought and planning that is going into how we will decide on the fees for 2022. And I say that because during our discussions on the 2021 fees, we notated that the city is currently owing about $17.2 million on the Gemini Center. And that's a pretty big burden to bear, especially knowing that there are some maintenance issues that we need to tackle on that center coming up. So what I decided to do is just start the conversation. And so I've invited Director Kemp here tonight to just kind of outline a little bit for us, 50,000 foot level. We're not going to get too far into the weeds here tonight. The couple of steps that he's going to take over the next year to decide what the baseline for the Gemini Center should be. And then I'd also like as a group to set some touch points where we can follow up throughout the year and make sure that we're truly monitoring what's going on in that building, because it is such a great community asset. And because we do have quite a liability on our financial books. So we need to make sure that we're having proper oversight of it. So, Director Kemp, if you wouldn't mind, and maybe Mayor, if you want to jump in as well, I just want a 50,000 foot, very high level, what are your plans? What are you going to attack for this year to set that baseline?
Carrie, if I may, and then I'll let you get into the details. Thank you, Madam Chair. When Carrie and I met, Director Kemp and I met prior to coming to council for a recommendation on the 21 fees, we did talk about obviously longer term where this may go. And we did, in addition to the fees, we also talked about maybe some other type of revenue sources that we could generate there at the center, additional rentals of the facilities, of our pools, of other assets that we have, at the center, but also, our parks, our stadium, things of that nature. Kerry, I know he's been looking at other municipalities to get a sense of where we are with respect to them. We've talked about maybe a survey of our current members to see what type of programming was of interest to them. And we are, as we all know, we're going to be addressing the budget going forward in the next month, February and March. And so one of the things too we want to look at is from a cost benefit analysis of what the current programs that we have now, to see what is working, what we can maybe tweak. So it's obviously membership fees, but it's really the what are people getting as a member. And so I know Carrie's looked at some things to show the benefit that people would receive by becoming members. So appreciate you bringing this to committee to talk about a little more in depth. And if it's all right with you, I'd let Carrie let us know where he's at. Thank you.
Please, thank you, Director Kemp. Appreciate you being here tonight.
All right, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm on my new city laptop, so thank you all for approving that. I appreciate that. few things that we're starting to look into right now are the membership fees and policies with the Gemini Center, and then also starting to benchmark and research what some of our neighboring communities are doing as well with their policies and their membership fees. In addition to that, I want to look into our convention room and our other rental rates. As Mayor Cooney alluded to, we're starting to, research what some of our neighboring municipalities are doing with those, and also looking kind of bigger picture on that kind of the market rate of convention space within Northeast Ohio. One of the big things that's important to me too is finding out who best practices are and benchmarking those best practices, be it privately owned space, community space, looking at the Ohio Parks and Recreation Association, and then looking at kind of the region, Northeast Ohio region, and seeing what rental opportunities are out there and trying to set our space to meet that market rate. So those are some of the things that we're starting to do right now. The survey idea is kind of an all-encompassing survey that we're looking to roll out eventually to see, what programs our members and residents are liking, what they're disliking, what their satisfaction level is, what are some new programs that they're interested in. And hopefully by getting all that information, it'll give us an idea of helping us with a cost analysis of moving forward of what we might be able to set some of our new programs and existing programs up as far as fees and revenue generating ideas that we have. The big thing for me though is looking kind of at the best practices and finding out, what our, I wouldn't say competitors, so to speak, but what our neighboring community municipalities are doing, and trying to get to, that level or nearby, but looking at the overall value of what our program and what our department can offer and what our members and residents are getting out of it. I think, our residents and members are getting a very nice value and a great benefit with all of the offerings that we have. Unfortunately, these offerings aren't happening right now, but in the past and in the future, a lot of the things that we're looking at doing, I think that's a great benefit and a great value to being a member. And we really want to, make sure that our fees and our revenue matches that value that's out there. Any specific questions that anybody might have? I do really look forward to working with you all on having check-ins and to make sure that we're, moving forward and getting things ready for legislation for the end of the year when it comes to setting our membership rates. But other than that, I can answer any questions that you guys might have on some of the things that we're looking at doing, or even take some suggestions on your ideas of things that we can do to make sure we're, moving in the right direction.
One thing someone said to me once about a possible way to generate revenue on the rec center was to think about and consider maybe naming rights for the whole building. So that's the only thing. I don't think that's really ever been discussed in a meeting like this that people have suggested to me. So don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but it's an idea.
No, yeah, thank you. I know it's something that in our last or second to last rec commission meeting, we started talking about it a little bit as well, as far as exploring it. So I appreciate hearing your idea on that. It echoes what some of the members on our commission say as well. So thank you.
Well, no, that's not my idea. That's John Rocha.
Carrie,
What,
if I,
what if it's a good idea, Greg? You can then take credit for it.
No, I don't want to steal anyone else's credit.
yeah, the burger natatorium, come on.
Oh, no.
Carrie, if I may.
Hello.
Hey, Carrie, one thing I was going to mention, since we do know that had it not been for the pandemic, we certainly would have, been acting this year to bump up, the rates on different things. And so obviously, as Sarah mentioned, this is going to become, this is something that we will down the road have to do. I wonder if in some communication to the people this year, that it kind of be made known to them that, more or less, in an attempt to be sympathetic to everyone dealing with the pandemic and the limitations on our facility use, we have chosen not to, increase our rates this year, but we are looking ahead, to meet some of the, the needs to meet our, budget in the future, just so people are kind of thinking, oh, that's nice or good that they did this, and more or less prepare their pocketbook to know it is coming down the road. So they first and foremost see that we did cut everyone a break this year because of the limited use, but to know that it is something in the future that we're going to have to address.
If I might jump in, Maureen, I do want to make clear that, my intention here is not to say we're going to raise the rates, but rather to say, how are we going to make sure that our Gemini Center is balancing its financial liabilities to the city, right? Now, raising rates could be one way we do that.
Right.
But is able to, match and rent out and create naming rights. If we get First Energy Recreation Center, that, we're golden. We can maybe lower them, right? The intent here is to start the dialogue and truthfully to do it in a public setting, so that for the next year, there are several check-ins publicly that our citizens can understand the thought process that went into eventually whatever it is that Director Kemp suggests to us.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm cautious about we can definitely say we were trying to be generous and understanding and sympathetic, but I don't know that anybody here on council has come to the conclusion that we will raise rates. We have to raise rates. It's more just a matter of we have to make sure that we are examining that value and understanding how we are going to treat that building in what I'm going to call a neutral position. We just simply can't lose money on it, right?
Right.
So sorry, I don't want to get too far down that wormhole because we've certainly made no decisions in that manner.
Okay, no, but I do see, that they know that, we are keeping rates as they were, as they are, in order to obviously respect everybody's financial situations this year. But I understand where you're coming from. That's a good point.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody else have any thoughts or comments for Director Kemp?
Thanks for joining us, Director.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. I'd love to establish some further check-ins. Just, I'd love it if you could come talk to us maybe 2 more times before we see this legislation pop up in, it'll pop up probably in hopefully early November, so that we're not doing it on a rush, right? We want to make sure that we're getting 3 full reads on that. So is it possible that we could see you toward the end of spring and then maybe early fall, just to get an update on perhaps what you've learned from the survey and from the benchmarking, so that we have a good insight and our residents have a good insight into maybe where we're headed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier, I look forward to working with you all. I see this as, I wouldn't say it's a collective effort, a team effort, and making sure that we're, moving forward in the right direction with a very, important building and piece of Fairview Park, the Gemini Center. And I really look forward to, working with you all, getting your input on that. And 2 times is definitely something that is, it'll work.
And
Sorry, my mind's on the game right now.
I get it. And you're always welcome to come any other time that you would wish, but let's set at least 2 check-ins between now
Absolutely.
and then information coming through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sarah,
Yes, please.
Director, has this issue been discussed in the Recreation Commission meetings? Is this an ongoing question, reference to raising the rates?
It's been talked about a little bit. We haven't raised them now for 3 years.
Right.
So it is something that we really need to look into. Like I said, I'm starting to look at the rates and fees that our neighboring communities are doing or have for their members and their type of memberships, and examining and evaluating what we currently have to see, what needs to be addressed. And we haven't done anything in 3 years in the Gemini Center. So we need to make sure that if we are raising rates, eventually we need to be intentional about what we're doing, making sure that we're showing a value for our members and our residents that take part in a membership within the Gemini Center. So all of those things need to be examined and evaluated further. We have talked about it a little bit in the commission meetings, but nothing too concrete yet. I've only been part of a couple of those meetings so far, having worked here for just 4 months now. But it is something that we are going to start discussing further moving forward, because it does need to be addressed.
The more input, the better.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Director Kemp? When you do this study, I guess when you come to council in the future, if you could share with us, the comparative studies that you do have with the other neighboring communities. And I realize not all community centers or rec centers are comparing apples to apples, but as much as we can compare, that would be helpful for us to see, what's going on in the other communities, and also to understand a little bit where we're coming from with regard to setting up our budget needs.
Absolutely. I plan on doing that anyhow. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, if there's no further discussion, we can close out this topic. And I know Director Kemp is very eager to go watch that game. I do need to say, I really appreciate that he came tonight. The first thing he said to me when I talked to him on the phone earlier this week was, "You do know there's a game, right?" And I went, "I forgot." And then I gave him the opportunity to opt out and discuss it another night. He said, "No, we can discuss it. That's not a problem." So that's some serious dedication to the city, and I do appreciate that very, very much. Okay, Director Kemp, thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Carrie.
you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, we can move on to the issue then of chapter 707 and 708 in the Fairview Park Code. I will tell you that this is a issue that has been in committee since prior to my tenure here on council. And so I'm going to do my best to kind of surmise what I believe the problem is. And I'm going to ask Director Castell a couple of questions and see if we can do it.
Sarah, before we start, you're going to take a motion on your on a Gemini?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, I'd like to leave the issue of Gemini Center fees in committee. Mike?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Sarah, yes. Bridget?
Yes.
And Greg?
Yes.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate you keeping me honest there.
Mhm.
Okay, so chapter 707 and 708 of our codified ordinances, these deal with basically our rental licenses and rental inspections. And so from what I understand from reading the records from a while ago, it looks like perhaps our code needs to be updated because it does not match the current case law regarding rental property inspections and licensing. So I guess I just wanted to start the discussion tonight. I know Assistant Law Director Castell is here. And I thought, I don't know if you've had any time to read this a little bit further and get a better understanding of the issue, where you could give us an explanation, or ideally, if we could have you start looking into it and report back to us at the next committee meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Really, it's sort of a simple issue and a simple fix that I think that if you read Bill McGinty, the former law director's memo to council at the time he proposed this, and the case law that was attached to it, really the only thing we need to do is update our code with a brief couple sentences, and adding a warrant provision on the right of entry section of those code sections. So basically what the case law is saying is it's okay to have these rental inspections, it's okay to have the fees, but when the homeowner or the occupant refuses entry and you attach a liability for that refusal of entry, you're now creating a Fourth Amendment issue. The Fourth Amendment issue is to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. So what the warrant provision allows for is for the building commissioner, when he goes to do an inspection and a homeowner or a occupant denies entry, we will not cite somebody for the fact that they denied the building commissioner entry unless we get an administrative search warrant for the property and then they refuse entry based on the administrative search warrant. So it's really what former law director McGinty's proposal was really, I think at this point in time, would clear up the issue. Now I know law director Riley did forward another case. It's a more recent case that I think we have to take a little bit more in-depth look at it as well to see if we need to go any further than the recommendations law director McGinney made. But I think for the time being, the recommendations that law director McGinney made should suffice. And in fact, they seem to, I was able to pull up Cleveland's right of entry code today, and it seems to basically mirror what Cleveland has.
Wonderful. So we could potentially clear this up quite quickly with just a change in ordinance.
Yes, and I think it probably should be done quickly, and then, you know, let's clear up that one issue, and then based on this newest case that came out of Bedford, maybe take a closer look at it to see if we need to go a little bit further. But I think that this would clear up the immediate issue that law director McGinney was concerned about at the time he proposed this.
Okay.
Sarah?
Yes, go ahead.
Prosecutor John, the ordinances that were drawn up in 2018, would that cover everything that's necessary? There's two ordinances that are drawn up.
I think it would, because it adds that provision that we would not basically, you know, force our way into somebody's house without getting a warrant first. So I think that covers that. And it also, again, just to try to get some consistency with what other communities are doing, I did pull Cleveland's, and it does seem to match, you know, not word for word, but certainly in the same scheme that Cleveland has as far as requiring a warrant before you enter somebody's apartment building or house, if it's a rental house, without permission.
Thank you, Jim.
Sarah, if I may ask, please.
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm just trying to understand a little better in Fairview, if somebody has a home that they are renting, how frequently is this $100 paid once? And then how frequently are these inspections made? Is it every time a renter turns over, or is it a one and done thing, or how does that work?
Well, I'll let Walt answer that question. I think the rental fees are paid on an annual basis. As far as how often they're inspected, I think that is probably better for Walt to answer based on the fact that there's just one or two of them and lots of apartments and houses for rent in Fairview. Walt?
Yes, sir. We do collect that annually, the rental dwelling and the apartment license. We do collect annually. The inspections Actually, all of our apartments require that they request us to inspect them, except for this year. They were still asking us for, I'm sorry, 2020. They're still looking to see if we can inspect them, but we're renewing them this month. The rental dwellings, the licenses are due July 1st, and we try to do them at the owner's request. A lot of owners request them and at their convenience, at their request, but at a minimum every 2 years. We don't usually do them on a change or on a tenancy change. But a lot of owners do request that we come out and take a look at them if they do have that opportunity before a tenancy change, just so we're not getting involved with, a new tenant or anything like that. But most of our owners are pretty proud of their properties. They want us to come out and take a look at them. They want us to issue that piece of paper and to be able to show it to their insurance companies or their tenants that they have a license through our city.
What about the ones that aren't? I remember talking to you about a house that was rented over on Concord where some neighbors were complaining, and I don't believe an inspection was done, and there were concerns about what was going on the inside of the house. And I think you were only able to look at the outside.
And that is very correct, and that's part of this rule with an administrative warrant. If the owner won't let us in, we can't threaten misdemeanor or a criminal charge. We would need to seek that administrative warrant in that case. But again, we would have to have good cause to go inside to see it. And that judge is going to issue us that administrative warrant based on good cause.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go right ahead.
Who signs the administrative warrant?
Who
John?
signs it?
Yeah.
Oh, we would have to probably go over to Rocky River Court and get that, or we could go to county, but yeah,
It would
we'd
have
have
to
to go.
be someone from a judicial branch.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Maybe former law director Judge William McGinty could sign it for us.
That would be a great idea.
And Sarah, if I may,
Go ahead.
if an owner does not take care of these things that they're cited for, what happens? Because then you have renters in the home and an owner who might say, I'm not willing to, or I'm not taking care of these things in a timely fashion. Do you take away his ability to rent? And in so doing, then what happens to the renters? How does that all work?
Well,
John,
if there's property violations, then they would have to correct them, just like any other homeowner or any other, building code violation that we would come across. They would have so many days to remedy the situation. If they didn't do it, we would take it to the next step and file charges in Rocky River Court. The only thing that we could cite them for at this point in time would be outside violations, because we don't have that right to entry without their permission, and their permission has to be voluntary. And so that's why we need this warrant provision in there. Kind of takes away that issue regarding voluntariness of their consenting to have somebody come in and look. So
Okay.
yeah, if there's violations, we would cite those violations. If there's a hazard to health and safety, it depends on how bad it would be, and we might have to ask them to vacate the property. While maybe depends on what the violations are, whether we need to get the Board of Health involved or some other agency.
Okay, thank you.
John, can a renter request or grant entrance to the property to view the safety welfare issue?
That's a good question, because if the renter has right of occupation, I think that they could allow somebody in. But of course, it would be the landlord that would be cited for the violation. So that is a very good question that I don't think has been raised yet, as far as having somebody be cited. So we wouldn't cite the renter, we would cite the landlord, unless there was some sort of agreement between the landlord and the renter that the renter would be the one responsible for whatever the violation was.
What's the possibility of holding back the rent then?
Well, the renter certainly has their own civil remedies. If they feel that there are violations, they can pay their rent into the court and force the landlord to cure the defects.
Thank you.
So, Liz, if I could ask your help here. As far as I know, there has not been legislation drawn up for this, correct? Or am I missing that in the packet?
There was something drawn up.
There was, I think it was in the folder for the link I gave you. There were two pieces, I think it was two pieces drawn up, but they were never introduced.
Okay, so they're drawn up but not introduced. So,
Right.
could we, the ask coming out of here is, could the administration please review them and make sure that they are appropriate based on the law department's recommendations? And could we see those introduced for first read for next meeting or the meeting after?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, John, we'll talk with Tim. I don't know if Tim's on the line, but we will get something to the clerk in the next few days.
Yep, and I mean, if it takes, I know that we're coming up, you know, I think.
I know the deadline's tomorrow, but I think, based on what, Prosecutor Costello mentioned that, there's some, the recommendation is to have this introduced sooner than later. So, John, I don't think it's a big fix. Is that your
No, I think that I think that the recommendations that are presented in the packet that Law Director McGinney made are probably sufficient to cover us.
Okay, so I'll talk with Tim tomorrow. We'll have something up to the clerk, again, maybe tomorrow or Wednesday.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
If that's okay with the clerk, if we get, if we don't hit tomorrow's deadline the next day.
Yeah, and I did send those, I did also send that link to Director Riley so he could see those drafts, so he should have them.
Okay, was that a Word document?
No, they weren't Word, they were actually PDFs, but I can convert them to Word.
Thank you.
And I spoke with Law Director Riley as well, and so he's aware of these, and so I think we're kind of on the same page as far as that's concerned.
Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Well, let's make sure that this is taken care of for our building department, our residents, our landlords. I'm glad that we can get this thing moving. Is there any further discussion on chapters 707 and 708?
No.
Then I'm going to make a motion to remove this from committee, because fingers crossed we'll have legislation and it'll be added as legislation next week. Mike?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Sarah, yes. Bridget?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Wonderful. Local government and community services ends at 7:41 p.m. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, Brian, do you have anything for boards and commissions this evening?
Nope, that's nice.
Bill?
Nothing, Mike.
Maureen?
I do not. Thank you.
Sarah?
I do have a school board update. So the tentative dates, the Fairview Park City Schools will be returning to hybrid as of January 18th. And tentatively, as of February 15th, they will be returning for 5 days in school session. Those dates, again, are tentative, but it does look like our kids will be returning into the building at least part-time in the next week, and fingers crossed full-time in the next month. So that's great news for our students who have been asked to endure a lot, while some of the adults in our community are not enduring quite the same. So I'm very glad for these students that they will be able to go back and interact with their peers and start to grow further this year. Thank you.
Thanks for the report, Sarah. Bridget,
Nothing.
Greg,
Nothing, thank you.
hey, Brian, do you have anything for roundtable?
Actually, just a quick question for Walt while he's here. With the citations that we hand out, if someone ever couldn't meet a deadline that we have put out there for they want an extension, would we just have them contact you to get that approved, or should we do that, on their behalf for you, or what's the best route for something like that?
I think it would be depending upon what the issue is. I mean, if it's a health, if it's an immediate hazard, if it's a serious hazard, we may want to try to move along as fast as we can. If there's ways we can help them get through it, get them contractors, get them information. The safety is our biggest thing as far as grading extensions go. I mean, if it's weather related, give us a call. We'll have no problem extending something weather related. But if there's a safety issue, we'd rather not see many extensions granted by us. We could send it to our law department for review. And if they decide, everyone's individual. It's tough to say. Safety issues, based on our experiences, we want to get those taken care of as fast as possible.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Okay. Thanks. That helps. That's all I had.
Thank you. Bill, anything for roundtable?
Nothing, Mike.
Thank you. Maureen?
I was just curious if Liz would be able to share, how has the response been for applications for the task force?
We have received, I believe it's 6 so far. 6 applications. So
okay.
Averaging 1 per day at least. About.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. Sarah, anything for roundtable?
I do have something, and it's a little bit touchy, so I'm going to try to describe it appropriately here. There are, and this is going to go back to political yard signs, right? And we know that there is First Amendment speech, which allows people to display signs in their yard. But there has been some concern in certain neighborhoods that there are some rather large signs. And I guess my question, maybe for John Castell or for Walt Maynard would be, I understand people are allowed to say what they want to say in terms of political free speech, and I wouldn't argue that they're not. However, is there a caveat to that it's the size of it is just simply outside of the scope? I don't know what the right law to chase down, or if we need to have that offline, but it's impacting what I would call the neighborhood based on the size of the sign.
I went out and looked at one today on 229, and that sign has been removed, and his lifelike structure inside his front door, those were both removed. I believe, I'll confirm with Director Riley, but we have the ability to have some say-so in the size of the sign, the location of the sign, but not necessarily the content of the sign.
Okay.
Yeah, that's I would agree with what Walt said there, and I'm aware of the sign that I think it was at issue, and we're gonna look at that for prospectively going forward. How if the signs of that nature are posted, how we're going to proceed, and if there's something that we need to address, from our ordinance, from our ordinances, we'll bring it to council.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I would never want to stop somebody's ability to say what is on their mind, but
unless you cause them to storm the Capitol, then maybe.
Well, I'm choosing not to get involved there in any way, shape, or form. But I do want to make sure that our neighborhood is staying a upscale neighborhood where people want to be. So I appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Bridget, do you have anything for roundtable?
Yeah, thank you. I have two quick things. First of all, I don't know if anyone else ever has to work weekends like I do, but I would like to have our budget hearing on Saturday, February 27th. If anyone has an issue with that, if you could please let me know. And then I have a question. I met with a couple people in Ward 5 who have been complaining about this exhaust smoky smell that has gotten very bad in the last 3 months. They did post something on the community page, and apparently people have been smelling this smell all throughout all of Fairview. It's the strongest between 7 and 8 a.m. and it's causing headaches, nausea, and like lip burning, and it's somewhat of a chemical type exhaust smoky smell. And I don't know where to go with this. There was a thought maybe it was de-icing from the airplanes, from the airport, or NASA maybe could be doing something different. So I need help in.
Where's it located in the city?
In Ward 5, like Sherwood Avenue is where I met with people.
Like if I were to go to Sherwood between 7 and 8 in the morning, would I be able to smell it?
They said they actually leave their homes because the smell is getting into their houses and it's causing them to be very sick. So they will actually step outside to get some fresh air and like have the smell kind of dissipate a bit.
Have they called the fire department?
They did. And I spoke to Chief Raffin and he has no answers for them. There's no.
Was he able to confirm the smell?
No.
Can you send me the addresses, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you have any information how we could be exposed to it, I would, if there's a certain time or location, or if anyone in there or any complainant knows, I'd like to go there and look. I wonder if it has anything to do with Coe Creek that runs back through there.
Is it a daily occurrence?
Daily occurrence. And actually one woman has been affected year round by this. In the past 3 to 4 months, it's gotten very bad. And this is where the neighbors have stepped up, and so they've kind of spoken to each other.
Isn't there a pump station over there?
There is on that street, yep.
What about the 220 project? Does that kind of go along with it, the gas lines?
That's a good thought.
Well, if it's been going on for as long as.
If it's been a few months.
Yeah, if it's gotten more,
Bridget, is it eastbound, westbound, or northbound, southbound? Because that's the street that kind of curves back there.
Where I met, it was right off of 220 before the curve. It kind of backs up to the Board of Education.
So I guess maybe that would be a thought too. The car line for the EEC, they're outside almost all the time right there. Maybe you could work with the Board of Education, or you and I could work with the Board of Education to just see, have their teachers noticed anything? And that might give us an idea as to how far this permeates, right? Does it stay on Sherwood? Does it go into the schools? Because with their car line and nobody else allowed in the building, the teachers are outside for several hours at a time in the morning accepting children.
Okay, yeah, that's a good thought.
Walt, do you know what type of heating system they have in that building?
I'm sorry, I don't know what type of heating system's there, but I was just thinking the bus traffic, bus start is up early in the morning. That's a
the depot's right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think since it seems to be the same time, the buses and/or the school, maybe some sort of a emission from the boiler on a regular basis. If it's a boiler, I don't know if it's a boiler or what it is, but it's an older building. I'm guessing it's a boiler, but we could look into that as well.
Great.
That's right across. That's right across the valley from the airport. My guess is would be that the winds are, something, probably jet emissions. Would be a
So,
good-
or if NASA was experimenting with something, maybe, I don't know if they do.
They do a lot of work at night, NASA typically,
Okay.
but
It would be
well,
interesting if Riviera Drive also experiences it, because if it does and it crosses Mastic, then you would know that it's potentially coming out of the valley
That's
or
true,
from
yeah.
between them.
well, I mean, I'll, I'm glad we have a narrow time frame, so we'll try to, stop by and check it out.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Bridget. Greg, do you have anything for roundtable?
Actually, this conversation made me think of it. So out of the pump station, off 220, is that there's something right next to it? Is that a generator or something?
If I may respond, Your Honor, that is a temporary generator. That's a backup generator. We had a little problem with our control panel on our in-house generator, and we don't want to ever not have power. So while Buckeye Energy and Power Source is working with us to identify what is the actual issue, we have that standby generator. It's a 2004 generator, so it's been overhauled 2 years ago, and we're ironing out whether some of the things that were overhauled were the issue, whether there's been some power surges, or if it's just another part of the generator that's just aged out. So we're also looking at a grant source for a new generator for that structure, but we're letting Buckeye Power do their due diligence in the interim.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, otherwise, the only other thing I want to thank, Commissioner Maynard and Assistant Law Director Castell for coming in, and I want to compliment Mr. Castell's Bernie Kosar jersey hanging in the background there. It's very impressive, almost as impressive as a Simmerly jersey. So,
Thank you. Liz, did you have anything?
Just one quick note, the ORC filing financial disclosure statements has officially opened. They aren't due until May, but consider this your first reminder. And I will send a link to the site to either download the form or file online. And apparently filing online is the way to go.
I've been waiting for you to say that since May, so thank you.
Yep, that's all I got.
Thanks, Liz.
Mhm.
All right, quickly, I CC'd council on an email this morning from myself to Finance Director Single, and it was pertaining to Council Clerk Westbrook's raise, which the non-bargaining city employees got around Christmas time. Liz didn't get because there was a bit of a mix-up about the mechanism to which her raises occur. In the past, I'd say back in 2012, Finance Director Rocco and myself agreed that that when all the non-bargaining employees would get their raise, that Liz would just get her raise along with it. Director Riley has asked that I submit the formal request each time now. Where in the past, I've submitted formal requests when the raises that we've asked for have been non-contract years, but he'd like them all the time, so that's why I sent them this morning. So just to let everyone know what that was about. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike.
All right. Thanks very much, everybody. And Mayor, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I just wanted to mention that council has a Shade Tree Advisory Committee position appointment available. Kate McCarthy, her term ended December 31st, 2020, and that was a council appointment. So I just wanted to, I had sent an email on December 2nd. So I just wanted to remind you of that appointment.
Thanks, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we can wrap up and go watch football.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
All right, everyone. Have a nice night.
Thanks. Have a good night,
Good
Hi,
everybody.
everyone.
See ya.
Bye.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Walt.
No problem.
Right.